Good evening, everyone. So we're going to call the meeting to order. My name is Saranda Purcell, the Director of External Boards and Executive Assistant to the Deputy Board President. To my side is Karen Ford, Director of Facility Usage. I'm going to be running the board on behalf of the Deputy VP. She's unable to make it tonight, so we're going to try to run through the agenda because we do have plenty to get to. As we do not have quorum at this time, on the agenda tonight, we're going to do the acceptance of the February 5th meeting. We also have a presentation by the New York City 2020 Census on Get Out the Count. We have a presentation by Hot Bread Kitchen to introduce the organization to the Brooklyn community. And finally, we have a presentation by Live On, caring for New Yorkers through organ donation. So as our first presenter is not here as of yet, we're going to move on to our second presenter until we get quorum. So we're going to call representative from Hot Bread Kitchen to introduce the organization to the Brooklyn community, right? And coming to the podium, we have Jenny Kirchner and her team.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having us. I'm Jenny Kuttner. I'm the Chief of Staff at Hot Bread Kitchen. With me, I have my colleagues, Karen and Kobla, who will introduce themselves in a moment. But we're here to share with you this evening a little bit about our work and how we hope your communities can be part of our impact here in Brooklyn. So Hot Bread Kitchen is a New York-based nonprofit that creates economic opportunity through careers in food. And we've been doing this for about 10 years. We do this through our two signature programs, one of which is a workforce training program that trains and places women in fair wage food jobs that allow them to achieve economic stability. And the other is a small business incubator that provides below-market kitchen space and programmatic supports to a diverse array of entrepreneurs from across the 5 boroughs. Since our founding just over a decade ago, our programs have grown pretty tremendously. Our training programs started in our own bakery uptown in East Harlem, where we were training women primarily in pastry skills and eventually placing them in bakery jobs. That was for about the first 8 years. In 2018, in order to grow the program and train even more women, we moved that program off-site so that we could also start teaching a 5-week culinary fundamentals training, which has ultimately allowed us to place women in a broader array of jobs, not to mention it's many, many more women. At the same time, our culinary incubator has been operating from right next door to the bakery since 2011 and has supported nearly 300 small businesses as they grow. Kobla will talk a little bit more about this, but we do this primarily by helping them access capital, market opportunities, and the networks that they need in order to scale. To give you a sense of how our organization has grown, in 2009, in our first year of operation, we placed about 10 women in jobs from our training program. Last year, in 2019, we placed 108 women in jobs that, again, allow them to achieve economic stability and that also give them certain things that are really important, like benefits and set schedules, which Karen will talk more about. And as we've grown, we've been considering how we can continue to grow and serve the New York City community, but we needed permanent space in order to do that. So last year, we began pretty rigorously searching for a permanent home, which is what brings us to Brooklyn tonight and permanently. We're very excited to share. So last year, we were able to access a space that in 2018 was vacated by the culinary incubator Pilotworks, which closed pretty abruptly. We're very proud to say that at the time of Pilotworks' closure in 2018, Hot Bread Kitchen was able to take in about 20 to 30 of those Brooklyn-based businesses that were stranded, and we're really thrilled to be bringing them back to Brooklyn with us. So being based at Pilotworks, or the former Pilotworks space in the Pfizer building, will be at the border of Bed-Stuy and Williamsburg at 630 Flushing Avenue. It's going to be an 11,000 square foot space that will not only double our real estate footprint, but our ability to serve communities across Brooklyn and across New York. So I'll turn it over to Karen now to talk a little bit more about how our training program has already taken root there.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for having us tonight. I'm Karen Bornarth. I'm a longtime Brooklyn resident. I've lived in Park Slope for 23 years, I guess it is, and I am very excited to be working in Brooklyn now as well for the first time in my New York history. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about our training program, which provides skills training, job placement, and wraparound services to women who are motivated to start careers in the food industry. And I think one of the best ways for me to show you what the program is about is to show you a little video. I hope it's going to run.
I'm from Peru, and I came to United States with my husband looking new opportunities.
I was excited to join Herbert Kitchen as this was a great opportunity for me to learn.
This is such a multifaceted course. It's not just the baking and the basic culinary skills. They're learning how to interview successfully. What are the important aspects of interviews? How to dress for an interview. They're being taught budgeting skills for themselves and their families.
My children fully support me, and they know how I can get a job so I can help my family financially.
I feel complete when I'm cooking.
A little technology challenged here, but we'll get there. So you got to see a little video. That's what our training looks like in action, and that training again provides culinary skills to women who are interested in starting careers in the food industry. We serve women from all of the 5 boroughs, and those women come from all around the world. And I think one way that you can understand our program is to get to know someone who's been through the program. The tall woman there on the left is Sharita Conley. Sharita is a Brooklyn resident. She joined our program a few years ago. She lives in Williamsburg. She has a family with 4 kids. And she had actually tried to start her own food business. And Kobla will talk in a minute about some of the challenges that involves. But what she discovered through trying to get this catering operation off the ground was that what she really needed was to bring steady income home to her family. And in order to achieve that, she needed not only to improve her skills in the kitchen, but to be connected to the kinds of opportunities that our program provides. So Sharita went through our job interview or our program interview process. We have quite a number of applicants that will go through a working interview process. And we accepted her into training. She accessed about 4 weeks of hands-on kitchen training alongside professional readiness. So we're giving women tips on how to succeed on the interview, on how to communicate on the job, how to handle conflict resolution. And then we're connecting them to, we have I think probably 80 different employment partners. And some of our Brooklyn employment partners include Colson Patisserie out in Industry City, Sahadi's, both their operation in Industry City. Who else in Brooklyn? Runner and Stone, I don't know if you know them, down in the Gowanus area. So we have a handful of Brooklyn partners, and then we have some bigger partners like Restaurant Associates, and through their operations we're able to make a number of placements. Sharita wound up at Whole Foods, surprisingly working overnight. Even though she has 4 kids, she decided that an overnight shift was best for her. And after about 18 months, she was recently promoted, and she has a supervisory level position now at their Bryant Park store. So she went from making $13 an hour back in, what year were we still at 13? A couple of years ago, to now making $19 an hour. She visited our cohort this morning, in fact, and was able to talk about her experience. So Sharita benefited not only from the skills training and the job placement support that we provide, but from wraparound support. So the women who will participate in our program are faced with childcare challenges. Many of them are parents, housing instability, and through our program and our social work function, we're able to provide support to those clients as well. So we're very proud of our on-the-job retention rates. The kind of supports that we can provide mean that the women who participate in our program will continue to work. 84% of those women who start our program and are placed in jobs are still working at the 1-year mark. And that's a very high number for food service and for the population that we serve just generally. And there were some of those employment partners. Milk Bar, Roberto's, those are also great Brooklyn partners. And I think that's about everything on workforce. What we would really ask for tonight from all of you is that you talk within your communities about our program and you make referrals into our training program. And at the end of the program, Jenny will share how you can do that. Again, we invite women from all of the boroughs, but of course now that we're in Brooklyn, we hope to really draw from the community and serve more women who are in Brooklyn. And I'm going to turn it over to Kobla, who's going to talk about small business.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Kobla Asamwa. I'm the head of small business for Hot Bread Kitchen. I've been at the organization for 5 years as of a couple weeks ago. And in that time, really watched the incubator program that we operate grow from serving about 38 businesses when I started to close to 100 currently. And it's an amazing thing to see someone take the risk of starting a business, of going out there and trying to do it in an industry that has one of the highest failure rates of any of the industries out there, which is the food space. So just to tell you a little bit about what we offer as support to mitigate that, we have a commercial kitchen, which in the background there you see is the space that we have in East Harlem, where the businesses are able to come and make their product and operate their business. But then there's the whole suite of business development supports that we offer around it, which I'll get into in a minute. The businesses we serve are across the gambit, everything from every genre of food, from a meal delivery, meal prep business that services toddlers, to West African ginger drink, to a Colombian family that does catering of fine French pastries. And I think before I get into kind of the services we offer, maybe it's best told through the story. This is Yolfer. He is one of our current members in the incubator program. He is from Colombia. He is a trained pastry chef that came to our program through a class that we offered, a business planning class. His goal, his dream is to open up a bakery. And so we we've continued to work with Yolfer around tying the business resources, business fundamentals to his passion of being a pastry chef. That's everything from figuring out his packaging to improving the yield on his product to figuring out how to talk to lenders and other resources and supports to having a space to make his product. Yolfer has the hustle. He connected with us around kind of the small business support, and on the other side of it, he has we connected him to Whole Foods, a relationship of ours, where he sells currently in several stores across the city. He has since now opened up his bakery as a cafe in East Harlem. He has hired his sister and his brother, as well as some additional staff. And he continues to make the product out of our kitchen and bring it to the store. So he hasn't had to build out a kitchen. He's getting now that next level of support from us around growing the business. And we've been working with him to plug him into some larger capital resources, lenders out there towards expansion. And so that gets to kind of the suite of stuff that we offer. Yes, we offer a commercial kitchen space, and you've probably heard of others that do that. Really, it's the business advising, whether it's one-on-one support from our team or relationships that we have in the food space or in the small business space in general. It is the network. As Karen and Jenny said, we have the history of running a bakery and all the network of that, so we leverage those things to the benefit of our businesses, whether it's getting them on the shelves of Whole Foods, like I said, or getting them connected to folks that are going to just move their product along or service along. And it's also markets, very closely tied to the network. It is, we have now, we piloted this year a hot bread kitchen branded booth that we have at the Chelsea Market in Manhattan, where we have a residency, if you will, of a business that's interested in having a brick and mortar location can go and test out the logistics of having that in the Chelsea Market. We've lowered the cost, we've lowered the cost barrier, we've lowered the risk barrier for them to do that, and so these are just a few ways in which we support the businesses. This is one of our entrepreneurs that is going to be coming with us back to Brooklyn. I say back to Brooklyn because he started his business as one of the businesses at Pilot Works. Many of you might have heard that they closed abruptly a little over a year ago, and he was stranded for a while, and we worked with Andre to give him a space to give his business the resources and supports to grow, and is now moving back to Brooklyn with us, along with about 20 other businesses that are going to be coming along. So, I think if we talk about what we look towards you for, it's certainly the resources and the network and the support for our entrepreneurs is one, and certainly businesses, folks that have a dream to grow and start their business, to send them our way so that we can serve them and help them. Lastly, I will say that we are having an open house that on what's the date? May 13th, and we would really like all of you to come and to invite others that would love to learn more about either of our programming, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I open the floor to the board members for any questions or comments. State your name. Oh. And board.
Richard Flatto, Community Board 3. Thank you for the well thought out presentation. Can you tell us what the rental rates are?
Yeah, so the rental rates will range, but in general, they are about $28 an hour. And I say they range because what we do is we have businesses buy in buckets of hours, so 10 hours, 25 hours, 35 hours, and obviously there's discounts in purchasing greater booking of hours. So at its peak, it's about $28 an hour, I'd say. We also offer for low-income entrepreneurs the ability to have that rate be even less than half of that. So I think our rate is $10.50 there.
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15. I believe it was the lady in the black and white. She had said that there was some sort of an application and testing. Can you go through the process? If I walk in, the testing involved, how long is the training, and then how long do you give them in a job position to see if they like it or not?
Absolutely, good questions. So the first, I recommend that someone might apply online, and you can do that through this link right here, hotbreadkitchen.org/training. And it is a very simple, basic application, doesn't collect a lot of information. And then we reach out to all of our applicants through a text to invite them to participate in a working interview. And during that working interview, they'll come to the kitchen and they'll spend about a day and a half with us in training. And that working interview serves two purposes. One is for the applicant to get a sense of what the training is all about, so she knows what she's getting into and if this is what she really wants to do. And two, for us to do some assessments about whether this is the right fit. So the real goal of the program is job placement. And we meet any number of women who are interested in a free culinary education, and that's a wonderful thing, but that's not the goal of our program. Our program is really about jobs. So that's one thing that we're looking to assess for during that working interview process. The second is, will somebody show up on time? Will they come back the second day, which is why we hold the interview over 2 days, because a number of women won't come back on the second day. So we may see maybe 100 women through that process, and we'll invite typically about 40 to start training with us. And the initial training is just under 5 weeks long. It's Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at our new facility in Brooklyn. We provide a weekly stipend to all of the participants of $200 a week and a daily Metro card for their travel. And we also provide a t-shirt as a uniform. That training as well, it continues to be an assessment period. So we really ask applicants to think of it like a job, right? So you need to show up every day, you need to show up on time, you need to communicate if something might get in the way of that. And during that training period, some women will self-select out, and we may ask some women to step down from the program. I mentioned childcare before as a big barrier to success on the job. It can be a barrier to training as well. And so if someone is struggling to find childcare, it might not be the right time for her to join the program. Yeah, please.
Kim Robinson from Councilmember Alika Ampry-Samuel's office. What's your retention rate?
Yeah, so we were just looking at this today, in fact. So last year in 2019, we admitted 163 women into training, and we placed 108 of them into jobs. So that's about 68% of the group actually finished the training and were placed into jobs. Of those who could have reached the 1-year mark of employment, we have 84% still working. And that number is looking at more than just 2019, because obviously a lot of the people who trained in 2019 haven't reached the year mark. And we look at the employment metric both from the same job, people who are on the same job, and people who are just working.
I have a follow-up question. Yeah. You talk about jobs. What type of job? Can you give us examples?
Absolutely. So we're working more and more. In our history, we were generally training people in the craft of baking and placing them in bread baking jobs. But now we're really training people in more general culinary skills. And the types of jobs that we're placing people in tend to be prep cook roles in corporate or educational cafeteria environments. So one of our biggest employment partners is Restaurant Associates, which operates at Google, for instance. We've made more than 50 placements in their cafeterias. We've made placements through another Compass Group provider called Flick at different schools, different law firms. So we're really looking, the best schedules for our clients tend to be Monday through Friday schedules because they tend to be working parents. We place people in fast casual. We place people in fine dining, not quite as much. And we have probably 80 different employment partners, but we really try to make a highly individualized match and understand a lot about the needs of our client from a scheduling perspective, from a commuting perspective, and line that up against the expectations of the employer. So that, yeah, no, please go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
So if someone starts the program and let's say halfway through, for whatever reason, have to stop, is there a waiting period or like how do you help them to come back in if they were
depending
interested?
on the reason why they might leave, and it happens certainly. We invite them to come back. Typically, you know, we have a very open door policy. So if now is not the right time, then maybe a few months from now, once you've got your child care in order, once you've, you know, taken care of your sick parent, whatever it might be, we'll invite people to come back. But the next phase after the job training is job placement. So our employers, they expect that they are hiring our program graduates from day one. It is not an apprenticeship, it is not an internship, it is a full hire. And they're committed to providing on-the-job training for our program member and keeping her. They're filling key roles in their staff. This is not like a supplemental sort of staff position. We have a very good placement, time to placement rate. We are placing almost everyone within 3 weeks of finishing the training. They are in jobs, and so they're seeing their first paycheck, ideally within 4 or 5 weeks after finishing training. And we intend to keep driving that number down. What sets us apart a little bit also from other workforce providers is we place everyone who finishes the training. There are a lot of workforce providers who do training and they do not do job placement, but we do job placement and we're very good at it.
Fred Baptiste Community.
Loud, right?
Yes. Fred Baptiste Community Board 9. So with regards to admission into the program, is it done on a rolling basis or do you have periods of time where you're accepting applicants?
Very good question. So we are always accepting applicants, but we will run 5 cohorts this year. So we started our first cohort at the beginning of February, so they're getting ready to wrap up their initial training. Now would be a good time to apply for the next cohort, which will start mid-April. Typically, we'll get about 3. April 6th, thank you. Typically, we'll have to sort of cut things off when we get about 250 applications in the pipeline, as we don't have the capacity to really have more than 40 people start a training. So after the April 6th mark, you're looking pretty much at every other month we'll be in training.
Any other questions?
Anyone over here?
Combo's office? Council, you go ahead.
Jonathan Merriman, the Majority Leader, Lower Combo's office. So, question: do you also? Hi. All right. Do you also collaborate with the NYCHA Reese program as well?
Funny you should ask. We've done a lot of outreach into NYCHA, and I think we're looking at filing an application for Reese. There were a couple different programs within NYCHA that we wanted to tap into, and one was Reese, and there was a, but yes, the Zone Partnership, was that the second? Yeah, yes, absolutely, yeah.
Hi, Christia Winter from Councilmember Farrah Lewis' office. Just curious to know a little bit more about, you said there are a lot of immigrants that participate in the program. Are there language barriers, and can you explain a little bit more about how you support those who are coming in and trying to establish a lifestyle, and how do they find your program and the support that they do receive in order to be able to comprehend and go through the actual training process?
Absolutely, yeah. So that is one thing we're screening for at the interview process. And while a lot of the women that we serve are English language learners, we do conduct the training in English. And the expectation on the job is that someone will have probably about an intermediate level of English. So through that working interview process, we will screen for that. We use a test called Best Plus, which is a spoken assessment of English. So we occasionally have to turn women away because of English. We will try to connect those women to ESL classes in the libraries or in the Y and encourage them to come back after a few months of ESL. For those ELLs who do join the program, we offer an additional 90 minutes of instruction during the training of highly contextualized English to help them sort of review and preview the lessons. And then we found it's very important with our English language learners that they get a lot of interview practice. So we do a lot of interview prep and practice, because They can kill it in the kitchen, they can have the best knife skills, but if they can't get through the interview, they're not going to get the job. So we do a lot of interview prep, and we also try to really familiarize them with sort of just the U.S. workplace culture around certain norms, as simple as making eye contact and smiling and asking questions and things like that. Yeah.
Any questions from the public? Or there's more? More? Are you, yeah, okay.
I'm Judy Collins from Community Board 10. Oh, thank you, sir. What about, funding? I know that, as you've expanded, how have you been able to keep up with the funding that you need to maintain growth?
That's an excellent question. So we, over the last couple of years, have really begun to tap into public money, so city and state money. As we expanded our outcomes on our workforce size, we kind of grew to the point where we could tap into public money. So we have state money, some DOL money, and we do have some city council funding. We continue to have a lot of great foundation support, and we have a lot of great corporate partners. And then we have some earned revenue through our bread sales and earned revenue on our incubator side as well. But we are always fundraising.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'll just one other comment about recruiting. So I hope that you'll go back to your communities and you'll talk with the community-based organizations in your areas. And if you want to refer anyone to us directly, we would love that. We'd love to have people visit us while we're in training. And beyond the open house, our doors are open to that whenever we're in session, because I think it really helps to see the program in action for someone to make an effective referral into the program.
And one more question before we move on.
Richard Flatto, Community Board 3. Is the program strictly for women?
On the workforce side, it is strictly for women. Yeah, we were founded really with a mission to create opportunity in the culinary sector for people who don't always find it. And women are underrepresented, particularly in higher level roles in culinary. The incubator is for men and women. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jenny and Karen, and the Hot Bread Kitchen team for their presentation tonight. That concludes our business with the Hot Bread Kitchen. We have quorum, so I'm going to have Karen call the roll.
Councilmember Stephen Levin, Councilmember Antonio Reynoso, Councilmember Lloyd Cumbo, Majority Leader. Okay. Councilmember Robert Cornegie, Councilmember Carlos Menchaca, Councilmember Brad Lander, Councilmember Matthew Eugene, Councilmember Alika Ampry Samuel, Councilmember Inez Barron. Here. Where? Oh, can you join us? Yeah. Okay. Councilmember Brannon. Here. Councilmember Kamen Yeager. Councilmember Farrah Lewis. Present. Councilmember Alan Mizell. Councilmember Mark Traeger. Councilmember Chaim Deutsch. And we have the bar president.
Present. Copy of the February 5th minutes.
Community Board 1. Community Board 2. Community Board 3.
Here.
Community Board 4. Here. Community Board 5. Community Board 6. Here. Community Board 7. Here. Community Board 7? Oh. Community Board 8. Community Board 9.
Present.
Community Board 10.
Present.
Community Board 11. Present. Community Board 12. Community Board 13. Present. Community Board 14. Community Board 15. Here. Community Board 16. Community Board 17. Community Board 18. Oh, 17? Okay. And Community Board 18.
Great. So copy of the minutes for February 5th was sent out prior. Do we have any corrections to the minutes? No. Is there a motion to adopt the minutes from February 5th, 2020? Can I get a-
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15, motion to approve minutes as printed.
Do I have a second?
Second, Richard Flateau, Community Board 3.
All right, thank you. So we're going to move the agenda forward.
We didn't vote.
Oh, pardon me?
We didn't vote on the minutes.
Oh, sorry. Can I have,
Motion is on the floor to approve. All those
so a
in favor?
motion is on the floor to approve the minutes from February 5th, 2020. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Extensions? No? One? Okay. Motion approved. Thank you, guys. Okay. Moving the agenda along, we're going to have a presentation. Did I miss anything, Teresa? Did I miss anything, Teresa? No? Thank you. Okay. So we're going to move on to the second item on the agenda. We have our representative from the New York City 2020 Census, and she's going to present on Get at the Count. At this time, we welcome Kathleen Daniels to come to the podium, state your name and title for the record, and start your presentation. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Kathleen Daniel, Field Director, NYC Census 2020. Almost had to read the T-shirt, right? Remember? Good to see so many of you again. It's always great to be home. I'm going to talk kind of quickly so that I leave the most amount of time for Q&A, because in 8 days and 12 hours, we begin the count. Okay, so what are our goals? Our goals at NYC Census 2020 is to increase the self-response rate to the 2020 census. The most accurate information we can get is when we DIY, do it ourselves, the census. Because who knows better who's living in your living room, right? But you can't get off the couch. Who's in your house than you? And so the best information we can get is self-response, and you're going to hear us say that a lot. Self-response is the way to go. And we need hundreds of thousands of census self-response completes. So in 8 days and 12 hours, we're going to start speaking about the census in terms of completes, people that completed the census. And this will close the gap between New York City and the national self-response rate. So the average, New York City did 61.9% of New Yorkers self-responded 10 years ago. In Brooklyn, 55% of Brooklynites self-responded, and it's one of the lowest county turnouts in the country. Our goal is to increase civic engagement and to create greater collaboration among community groups with city government. So here's what to expect. What's at stake? Resources, right? It's the 4 R's we keep talking about. Resources, because our fair share of hundreds of billions of dollars that comes down annually in federal funding is at stake. It's about representation. 10 years ago, we lost 2 congressional seats. Poof, like that, they disappeared, right? Because we were undercounted. We did not DIY and self-respond to the census, and so we lost representation. And right now, we have a neighbor running Washington, right? But maybe not always a friend, right? Now is not the time to send less people to Washington to advocate for us and represent New York City. Also, the number of delegates that we have in the Electoral College are also directly impacted and correlated based on census population data. Have to quote Biggie here, if you didn't know about the Electoral College, now you know. It's also about redistricting. Immediately after we complete the count and the data goes to the executive branch on December 31st, 2020, March 2021, redistricting begins. Those invisible lines that determine who represents us on the national, city, state levels. And we draw those lines by simply completing the census. And rights. This is in the Constitution. This is about our right to be counted every 10 years, however you feel. Everyone is equal because everybody counts as one, whether you're a citizen, documented, rich, poor, no matter where you live, everybody counts. The census is the largest mobilization of people in the country. Notice I didn't say citizens or voters or taxpayers, everybody in the country during peacetime. Okay, here's what's new. For the first time ever, the census is available online. my2020census.gov is where it's going to be live in 8 days and 12 hours. Also, for the first time, people can complete the census on the phone. You can pick up the phone and speak to people in one of 13 different languages, and each language has a different phone number. We're going to have those guides available on our website. And our website is nyc.gov/census. nyc.gov/census. Also, there's a newly designed form. The form is now a short form. It's 10 questions. It will take you 10 minutes to do it, and it's going to impact the quality of our lives here in New York City for the next 10 years. So here's the Census 2020 timeline. I'm just going to start with the dates that are current and future. So in mid-March, the forms become available. Everything goes live on March 12th. March 12th, the census goes live online, and you can go online and do it. Some people have already received their mailer. So your mailer is going to come to you, and it is kind of your invitation to RSVP, because that's all the census is. It's your RSVP for what could be, should be, the greatest party in the world. Living in America and living right here in New York City, right? Brooklyn's the center of the universe. But if we don't RSVP, our host, the government, cannot properly prepare for us and have bouncers, police, and have security and safety, firehouses, hospitals, money for schools. Head Start funding is also a part of this, Medicare funding. So many resources that we need for our basic quality of life, for what would make this an amazing party, because sometimes this party is challenging, is tied to our RSVP. So some people have already received that, and your invitation to RSVP to complete the census may or may not have your name. It could have the name of someone who lived there 10 years ago, right, or a few years ago. It will have a name or current resident, and it could have both of them on there. But it is for your household, so regardless of whether or not there is a name or it's your name, it is for your household. So it will say Flateau family or current resident. It may say or current resident. Mid-March, so what we are doing on March 8, 9, 10, and 11 is having what we call the Neighborhood Organizing Census Committee GPS, the grassroots planning sessions. I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about that when we get towards the end. April 1st is known nationally as Census Day, so don't be a fool. Get it done by April 1, especially for those of us in communities where you don't want to answer the door, right? Some people are afraid, they don't want to answer the door. Some people are tired when they come home from work and they don't want to be bothered. So if you don't want the Federal Census Bureau knocking on your door, then do it yourself, which is the best way to do it anyway, and get it done by April 1. And then in mid-May, approximately May 15, May 16, the Federal Census Bureau enumerators go out, tens of thousands of them all across the city, all across the country actually, and they start knocking on doors if you have not responded. In fact, it's called non-response follow-up, and we don't want to be non-responders again. Let's lighten that load and get it done by April 1. And then in August, census collection is slated to be completed. Now, at any point in time, the Federal Census Bureau can extend the program. They did in 2010, they did in 2000, but we don't know. It is slated to be completed by then. And I'll tell you my census story. Many of you know me. I worked for the Federal Census Bureau in 2000 as an enumerator, paid for my wedding. I worked for the Federal Census Bureau in 2010 as a group quarter supervisor, paid for my divorce, so happy. And I can tell you there's never been an accurate census because these enumerators are trained to count, and they can take proxy information. So if Sarana is not home, they can ask this lovely gentleman here, do you know these people at this, this floor here? And they don't know that these two never speak to each other. They don't know these two, never liked each other in the first place. And he might say, oh, those people ain't nobody. And they'll say, vacant, nobody, thank you, and they're done. And her whole family just disappeared. It's not their job to research. It's their job to count. And so self-response is the most accurate information that we can provide. Okay, so what New Yorkers need to know. The census forms are dropping. Some of them have already come out. So approximately March 12th, you will get your invitation to RSVP. There is also the ACS survey, which is conducted by the Federal Census Bureau, and that's the American Community Survey. Everybody does not receive that. It is from the Census Bureau, but it is not the census. And I'll give you an example. Last night, I got my invitation to go online and do the ACS survey. And so this is confusing? Yes. But that survey happens every year, and it's only a select group of the population that receives it. So if you get it, please do it, but it ain't the census. And when you get your invitation to complete the census online or on the phone or by mail, get it done and get it done by April 1. What you also need to know is that the census is for everybody. Everybody in your household. Millions of children, 0 to 5 years old, were left off the census 10 years ago. And that means they'll be, if you leave a 5-year-old off now, they'll be 15 years old and a sophomore in high school before that census comes back around for you to make it right and get them the academic resources and support that they need. So if a school is expecting 100 students and 150 show up, they don't send them away. God bless the teachers and the principals, but everybody will have to do what my mom says, eat little and live long. No one gets everything that they need. No one gets the support and the resources that they need to function well. Also, check your mailbox. It is not going to your P.O. box, UPS box. It's not going to any commercial box. The census invitation is going to the mailbox where you reside. So please check that mailbox. Very important because it isn't going anywhere else. Additionally, if you're not documented, this is for you. If you are justice involved, previously incarcerated, this is for you. Those of us that have family that came over for summer vacation a couple of years ago and they had way too much luggage and they said, oh, I'm not going back, that's for you too. Count those people. When in doubt, count, count, count. Do not leave anybody out because you don't get a do-over until 2030. We need to combat misinformation. The citizenship question does not appear on the census form. The citizenship question is out of the question. It is not on the census form, but the damage has been done. And so there's a lot of news, a lot of tweets that go bump in the night, and a lot of people still think, well, I'm not going to do that because I'm not documented, or my household won't do it because while we're citizens, we've got, family here that are not documented. This information that you provide to the Census Bureau is private. It's protected by Title 13. So where are my Wakanda people, Marvel Universe people? So going back to Wakanda, it puts a force field around your data that is impenetrable. Not even Thanos can get it, but you've got to complete the census. So that information will not be used against you. So if you're on the lease, do the census. If you're not on the lease, do the census, because your landlord will never know, because Title 13 says that your information cannot be released for 72 years. So what you do now will never be public and available, your personal information, until 2092. We should all hope to live that long. If your landlord is still around, then they should evict you, right? But I don't think they're going to be here. Again, it doesn't ask you what kind of edifice you're in, what your status is, your social security number, your financial information. It simply asks you your name, your address, one phone number in case they need to verify information, the ages of everyone in your household, the gender, the race and national origin, and then how many people in your house, and what kind of home you live in. Home, condo, co-op, etc. So here we talked about Title 13. The information collected by the Census Bureau cannot be used against you. It can only be used, according to the law, for statistical purposes. When the data is compiled and it goes to the executive branch, it does not include your name. It does not include whether or not you're a citizen, because that's not on the census. And Title 13 has never been broken, never been violated. To violate Title 13 would mean 5 years in jail and a fine of over $250,000. And I, who was a census worker in 2000 and 2010, once you work for the census, you are sworn for life. I can't go back now and tell you what I saw in 2000. I cannot go back and say, hey, did you know in 2010 the people over here, I can't do it because I'm not going to jail, I'm not coughing up $250,000. And again, Title 13 has never, ever been broken. Okay, so what NYC Census 2020 is doing, we've got a community-based complete count fund. 157 community-based organizations were granted a combined total of $16 million. They speak over 80 different languages, and they are on the ground already in communities as community validators, speaking the language of the deal, and helping people to get the census done. We've got our on-the-ground organizing, Get Out the Count campaign. That's the field campaign, my favorite. I'm gonna tell you how to get involved. We have a multimedia ad campaign that is coming out very, very soon. You can go on our website and see a PSA done by AOC and Lin-Manuel. It's amazing, and we have many more to come. And then we've got an in-depth partnership with city agencies. We're the city of New York. So we employ over 350,000 people in over 90 different agencies, and each and every one of them is being trained to help people with the census. And some of them will be pop-up sites where you can go in and get the census done. Okay, we've got partnerships, agencies, labor, faith leaders, houses of worship, business and employers, elected officials, and each and every one of you. We've given $1.4 million to the public library system, and this wonderful little map shows you the orange dots of the 110 targeted branches in areas where people are historically undercounted, because let me actually tell you how bad it is. Brooklyn, on the average, 55% of us self-responded, right? When you look at Canarsie, 41.6%. Bed-Stuy, 45.3%. When you look at, not Bay Ridge, not Bensonhurst, oh my gosh. Sunset Park, we're talking 42%. And then the worst count is 35%, and that's in the Coney Island area. Okay? So, we talked a little bit about the Complete Count Fund and their awardees. So, the pundits have spoken. They have taken a look at New York and how we did. They took a look at the country and a lot of the attitudes about civic engagement right now, and they have said that instead of 61.9%, we're going to come in at 58%. They said we're going to do worse, New York, than we did 10 years ago. And then when you look at the blue heat map, it is showing you the darker areas where we've spent and invested more money in community-based organizations, and we are putting more money in the historically undercounted areas because this is going to be the harder lift. These are people that have language barriers or have some fear or a rational cultural inheritance of when authority knocks on our doors, bad things happen, and so they may be the most reluctant to answer the doors, and so we're going to help them get information and access and resources so they can get it done and do so by April 1. Okay, the field program, my favorite. We've separated the city into 245 different neighborhood organizing census committees. And why did we do that? Because a lot of people don't know they're elected officials. A lot of people don't attend community board meetings, as you well know. But we are neighborhood proud and neighborhood strong. You know where to get a good parking space, the best slice of pizza, and which bodega has the best cafe bustela and a sub sandwich, right? And so where the census is at stake, where it really happens is right in your neighborhood, on your block, at your school, right at your front door. And so we've broken the city up into these 245 neighborhoods, and we call them the NOCCs. Get it? NOCCs? Pun intended. Okay, so we're going to be working in partnership with some of our CBOs will lead some NOCCs, and our field team will lead other NOCCs. And together, we will be working in a campaign-style canvassing operation so that we can each one reach one, so each one can teach one, and together we can get it done. So how does a NOCC work? We do teach-ins. You're attending one right now. I'm doing a truncated version. Congratulations. See how easy that was? And we tell people about Census 101. We're actually moving to a Census 2.1, so we're going to be talking about getting out the count, right? We do community canvassing. Everywhere New Yorkers go, we will be going. So some of us will be working with tenant associations, resident associations to go to buildings and doors, and others of us will be going to nail salons, houses of worship. Everywhere New Yorkers are, we're coming to. We're going to be doing peer-to-peer texting. March 21st is our massive, March 22nd, Sunday afternoon, we begin a massive text-a-thon. So we're using state-of-the-art technology where one volunteer, and that could be you, could be using our free app, which will not use your data, to text 1,000 New Yorkers in 1 hour, sending them the link and telling them to go online and get it done, or sending them the phone number. And we'll be doing phone banking. We'll be calling our neighbors and friends, and a couple of strangers too. Why not? And we're going to tell them to get the census done. Okay, technology. We have a shared database. We're using the NGP van. Where are my campaign people? So we use the van as a tried, true, trusted messenger in grassroots organizing campaigns. We're using Hustle for peer-to-peer texting. It's all the rage. All the people running for president, all 75 of them, are all using this. And we'll be using Mobilize for event management. And Mobilize is really just like Eventbrite or Evite for grassroots organizing. And all of our technology has gone through every trap and loop with NYC law for privacy and data security. And we have provided to our community-based organizations devices and technology. Our field team will be fully locked and loaded with cell phones and tablets, and we already have some laptops so that we can hit the street and help people go from committing to the census to completing the census. Okay, our messaging, key messages. The themes are resources for our families and communities. And our tagline you'll see in our advertising is, the more of us that fill out the census, the more resources and funding our communities will get. And this is the truth. The more of us that do it, the more money we get. This is a race for resources and representation. When we lost those 2 seats 10 years ago, want to guess who got them? Guess which state got our 2 congressional seats?
Florida?
Close.
Texas?
Texas. Now, I love barbecue, maybe too much, but I don't want to give Texas or Florida or California or anybody else 2 congressional seats that belong to me right here in New York, right? And I'm sure you feel the same way. This is Brooklyn. We're Crooklyn. We take, we don't give. Okay, so the census is for everybody, every neighborhood, every race, every nationality, every religion. The census is easy, it's convenient, and it's safe. 10 questions. It'll take you 10 minutes. It will impact the quality of our life for the next 10 years. And if New Yorkers are not counted, we risk losing out on representation and resources. So a complete count is everyone's responsibility, and we're gonna talk about how you can help. We had a massive teach-in Tuesday on February 11th, and a total across the city of over 1,200 people attended census teach-ins. We had over 100 different people leading and facilitating, from CUNY census students to our full-time field team to community-based organizations to leaders or faith leaders in houses of worship. It was amazing. So imagine 1,200 people got the message and went back and talked and went to all the world and preached the gospel of getting the census done. March 22nd, Sunday afternoon, our massive text-a-thon. So you can invite 2 friends over. You can sit with your family, and we will send you the resources. We'll teach you how to do it. You download the app, and you can start texting people the link so they can get the census done. Text on the phone number, and yes, they can do this in multiple languages. So if you are like me, I'm the first American-born of Haitian immigrants, like passe, y'all, you can be sending out information in French or Creole, in Spanish, in Mandarin, in Cantonese, and we will have those text messages locked and loaded, and people will be able to respond, and we will show you how to respond back, because it's not a blast text, it's peer-to-peer, so they're going to know that they're speaking to another human being. Okay? And you can gather at your house of worship and say that today after fellowship, we're all just going to text about the census, because the resources that need to come down in every community. These are our tax dollars that we send to Washington, and we need our fair share back. Oh, early April, we are having a massive rally. And by rally, I don't just mean standing somewhere with some nice cardboard, which is all good, but we are going to rally the troops and get our volunteers and our community-based organizations, and hopefully some of you and your boards and your teams and your staff, to go out and canvass in the community. So if you live in a building, grab a neighbor, tell one of us, we can come and help you, and we can knock down the whole building and make sure we talk to all the neighbors about getting the census done. You can also host a teach-in. I have a stack of business cards. I don't need them. I'll share with you. You can have them, and invite us to come to do a teach-in. We will come to a room as small as 10 people. We'll come to a room of 200 or 2,000. We need to teach everybody about the census and debunk the myths, because there ain't no citizenship question on the census. Okay, and we will be assisting people with filling in the census by having pop-up centers. So many places in this campaign, there's no polling site. It's a pop-up site, so people can walk in and do the census. Many libraries, the 110 targeted, are staying open later so that people can walk in and use the free computers and the phone. We're reaching out to elected official offices. We've already talked to many of you about this, about opening your doors. Don't just help them do their taxes, help them get that tax money back in terms of their community and our city. And we talked about the NOCC. You can join your local NOCC. Go to nyc.gov/census, nyc.gov/census, and click on NOCC or click on Get Involved. You'll see a map. Look at your neighborhood and see how it did. You can look at your ex's neighborhood, no judgment, and see how bad they did, and get involved. And you can click right there and put in your name and give us the best way to get in touch with you, and we will call you and invite you to our launch, our NOCC launch. And that's happening the evening of the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th. We are meeting in clusters by communities with our NOCCs, with everyone involved, and we're gonna set up our strategic plan for how we get each community counted. And we know, this is Brooklyn, That looks different in every community. We've got a lot of flavor. Questions?
Awesome. Now we open the floor to questions to the board. Questions? Any questions?
Good evening. My name is Gail Muhammad. I'm from Community Board 8. I know there was an issue around prisoners being counted, as well as young people that are in group homes or in any kind of placement. What has been decided about that, and how will they, and if counted, are they counted in the area that they're housed, or are they counted in the area in which they originally lived?
Great question. So there is a group quarter operation, and that is what I supervised in 2010 for the federal census, and where they count people that are living in groups of unrelated persons. And that means houses of detention, that means foster care, orphanages, shelters, family shelters, group homes, everything of that nature. Dormitories are being counted as a group, and that count begins, it's March 3rd, so that count begins in a few days. And they're cooperating with city agencies to ensure that they know all of the locations that people are living in a group, and they are counted separately. And then, at the end of the month, they begin to count the homeless as well. So they count people going to soup kitchens, pantries, people living in the subway, people living on the street, people living in what we call homeless communities, like people living in box colonies and things of that nature. And they all get counted. Now, when it comes to people that are incarcerated, that are currently justice involved, they will be counted as part of group quarter operations where they are for the census. However, due to a new law, hallelujah, in New York State, when it is time for redistricting, they are counted where they resided before incarceration, which is a massive victory, because all of those resources and all of those lines for our representation should not be going upstate where they are incarcerated, but back home where they're coming back to, so the resources are there for them. And so that was a great question. Thank you, Gail.
Any question?
More of a comment.
Comment?
Yes. Lucianne Savito, CB13. Thank you for making us the lowest. But with that being said, I just have more of a comment. When you hire individuals to knock on doors, intakers, have those individuals hired in the same district. You're more likely to have someone open up the door if you've seen this person in your community and work with them better to be able to fill out the census.
And that's a great point. So the Federal Census Bureau actually conducts the census. They enumerate. They're hiring tens of thousands of people. You can still go online to census.gov/jobs and apply. And they have said to us time and again that this time they've learned some valuable lessons from 2010. They are looking to hire people in the communities where they are from, where they reside, and they are putting a high prioritization on languages and the languages that people speak so they can match them up with the community. But as NYC Census 2020, I want you to get it done by April 1 and not be part of non-response follow-up, because this year we've learned our lesson and we're going to respond. Yes. Okay. Other question.
Fred Baptiste, Community Board 9. What is the Fred Baptiste, Community Board 9? How is NYC Census 2020 tackling the issue of, let's say, well, not issue, multiple households in one residence? How do they report?
So we actually have a doubled up letter that is going out from Deputy Mayor Phil Thompson, because the rent for many is too damn high in this town, right? And so you have, in a 3-bedroom, 3 different families living. You have people that are in roommate situations. We have a lot of people that are doubled up. There are even some parts of New York City where people are cab drivers or work 24-hour cycles and different shifts, and they have just a line of cots there, and they rent the cot, okay, instead of renting a room because it is more affordable. So in a doubled up situation, everybody in the household should be counted and counted where they reside. And so, for example, if you fill in for your family in your room, but you didn't coordinate it with the other 2 families, they can still go online or pick up the phone and use their address and get the census done. But it is very important. Don't worry about the landlord because the census information is private. The landlord will never know because some landlords may discourage people from doing that because they know that they shouldn't have 20 people in a 3-bedroom apartment. But that is not the concern of the census. The concern of the census is how many and where so that resources can be distributed, okay? Very important, even if you're doubled up. And in some, I was school board president in Bed-Stuy. We had some schools, entire schools where 33% of the student population were doubled up. So it is very important that you count everyone, and if you don't coordinate, encourage families, go and count yourself, pick up the phone, or go online, just use the address. It's okay if someone else in the household did it. If they didn't include you, include yourself, because everybody counts.
Any more questions? Any questions from the public? Thank you. So
I wouldn't be an organizer if I didn't make an ask.
that concludes our business with the New York City Census 2020. Thank you, Kathleen Daniels. Moving on to our fourth item on the agenda. Thank you. Moving on to our fourth item on the agenda, we have a presentation by Live on New York, Caring for New York through organ donation. I welcome Karen Cummins to the podium. Please come to the podium and state your name and title for the record. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Hello. My name is Karen Cummings, and I'm the Community and Government Affairs Liaison for Live on New York. And I know he's getting it together, so I'll just start talking. So Live on New York is one of 58 organizations across the country. We are the second largest, and specifically we facilitate all the life-saving transplants in the New York metro area. So how does organ donation work with Live on New York? As I said, we facilitate all the life-saving transplants. In addition, we support the donor families who have given the gift of life. We educate the community about the importance of life-saving organ and tissue donation. And then we also advocate for the thousands of New Yorkers that are currently waiting for life-saving transplants, and there's a lot of them, especially here in Brooklyn. But this is what Live on New York has done since 1978, since we've been in existence. We have saved over 20,000 New Yorkers through organ and tissue donation, improved the lives over 500,000 through tissue donation. 6 million New Yorkers are currently registered. Unfortunately, that's not enough based on our population. Out of the 50 states, that makes New York 50th, which means we're at the bottom of the list, unfortunately. But we service an area of over 13 million people, so the entire New York metro area is serviced by Live on New York. So we actually highlight our volunteers who are either waiting, who have been donors, or are currently life-saving recipients. This is Lauren. She is a mother who has been waiting 3 years for a heart transplant. So this is our entire DSA. So we service an area, as I said, of 13 million people from Long Island all the way into Poughkeepsie is the area in which Live on New York services, and then we service a small area in Pennsylvania called Pike County, mainly because the actual hospital is in Orange County. So who do we help? 10,000 New Yorkers statewide, and 8,000 of them exist right here in our New York metro area. And how does Brooklyn add to that? There are about 1,600 Brooklynites that are currently on the waiting list. 31 were donors in 2019. There were 204 that were life-saving recipients of transplanted organs and tissues. And how many Brooklynites are registered? Only about 28, which the average in our area is about 39. Most states across the country have over 56% of their residents who are registered. As I said, that makes New York 50th out of the 50 states. So what does that mean about life-saving transplants? That means if you needed a transplant in New York, you're going to wait twice as long as every other state in the country. The largest need is for kidney donation, and most people in our area are going to wait for a kidney transplant a minimum of 5.5 to 7 years. And that's minimum. One organ donor can actually save up to 8 lives, and one tissue donor, which means it could be skin for people who've been badly burned. It could be bone for something as simple as dental surgery, but it could also be used as knee replacements, can actually enhance up to 50 lives. So one person can make a huge difference. Here is kind of the average list of some of the things that people in our area are waiting for, which lead to their need for life-saving transplants. Things that we know about: diabetes, cardiomyopathy, which means you have an enlarged heart, which makes you a candidate for a heart transplant. As I said, people in our area wait twice as long as every other state in the country. The shortage is critical. Every day, about 18 New Yorkers die waiting for a transplant that they don't receive. So it's why the shortage is so critical in our area. How do we provide matches? So as I said, Live on New York receives a notification of every death that occurs in our area. We have a 24-hour donor service center, so we get about 60,000 calls per year. And then we have to check and see if that individual is registered to be an organ donor. As I said, only about 39% of New Yorkers are registered. So what if you were not registered? We have to go to your next of kin to ask them for consent. So what do you think that most families say? No. Probably over 50% of the families we approach, they've never been educated about organ donation, and it's the worst time to have that discussion. So that's the reason why registering is so important. But the reason that a lot of New Yorkers are not registered is there's so many myths and misconceptions. I think that the number one that we hear most is doctors are not going to try as hard to save our lives, right? I think in the 15 years that I've been doing this, that's probably the number one reason that a lot of people don't want to register. But remember, the focus of the hospital workers and the EMT workers are not if you're an organ donor. They get no benefit from supporting organ and tissue donation. And remember, you have to be hooked up to a respirator. There has to be oxygen in those organs for you to even be a potential organ donor. If you died at the scene of the accident or you died at your home, there's no oxygen in those organs, they're not going to be healthy enough for transplant. So you have to be transplanted to hospital. And donation is only an option that occurs after the determination of death. So if you were in a hospital and you were unconscious, you were in a coma, we don't know anything about you until the determination of death has occurred, and then we're notified. So we're not involved in that determination of death at the hospital. A lot of people believe that organ donation is against their religion. Most major religions not only celebrate organ donation, they think it's the highest gift you can give someone, which is the gift of life. So sometimes it depends on the burial customs. We can still do that, and you can be an organ donor. A lot of people think they're too old or too sick. We've actually had donors that were in their 90s, because it really is dependent on the health of that donor, not on their age. So every individual, after we obtain consent, is tested to see which organs are healthy enough. Even something as simple as tissue donation could help people and enhance their lives. So one person can still make a huge difference. A lot of people think they can't have an open casket funeral. You can still do that and be an organ donor. We prepare everybody with the same respect and dignity, not knowing what kind of burial that individual's family has chosen. So you can still do that and be an organ donor. And I think a lot of people believe their family will have to pay any cost From the moment that individual has consented to being an organ donor, there is no additional cost for that family. So everything is handled either through the recipient's insurance or through Live On New York. So how can you help? Becoming an organ donor can be done in a lot of ways. I think the largest way, which is about 75% of New Yorkers, register through the DMV, okay? Any license transaction, whether you are getting your license for the first time or renewing, you're going to be asked a question. It's actually a law named after Lauren Shields, who was actually the young woman who was on the first slide, who got a heart transplant when she was 13 years old. And there's other ways. Voter registration, we are in primary season. This is a big election year. We actually partner with New York City Votes out of the mayor's office. We also partner with the League of Women Voters, the NAACP. We do a lot of voter registration drives in partnership with them to not only register New Yorkers to vote, but also encourage them to consider organ and tissue donation. We are also part of IDNYC and the New York State of Health. When you get health insurance, you are also asked the question. It's just important for us that the New Yorkers that are throughout our service area are educated about the importance of donation, especially here in Brooklyn, where we have so many people that are currently waiting. Many of them are people of color. Probably over 65% are people of color that are currently waiting. If you know someone who is waiting for a transplant and they need support, they can always contact Live On New York. Encourage New Yorkers to get information and consider organ donation to help other New Yorkers to live on. Any questions?
We will open the floor to questions. Teresa?
Teresa Scavo, Community Board 15. If on your driver's license it specifies organ donor and your family gets to the hospital, are they able to stop it at that point?
They are not. It is a confirmed decision by the individual, just like healthcare proxies or a will. It cannot be changed. And that was actually done probably about 10 years ago, because at that point it was just a registry of intent, which means that situation could happen where that individual passes away and their next of kin could go and say, well, no, that's not what they wanted. And people were kind of up in arms. They said, why can someone change that decision when I pass away? So that's a decision that is confirmed by that individual.
Perfect. Thank you.
CB4?
Camacho, CB4. You stated that that's a myth, that the ambulance don't, but if you have an ID and your ID says and you're in the machine, says you're an organ donor, wouldn't that give a flag that maybe they would not try to save you because you're a donor? They see, if I give you my ID and someone in my family comes, give me a name and they're gonna see you're an organ donor. So you are showing that you are an organ donor, and you're in the ambulance, they're gonna say, wait a minute, you know, he's an organ donor, so.
Well, I'll say this. The EMTs get no benefit from allowing somebody to pass away to be an organ donor. 60,000 New Yorkers die every year. There's still 10,000 people that are waiting. So it's not as simple as an EMT just saying, I'm going to let that individual pass away. They have no vested interest in allowing New Yorkers to be organ donor. And they're not going to check your license first before they administer care. Their goal is to try to save your life. So if something is going to happen, they're going to transport you to a hospital. Then the doctors are going to go through a series of tests to determine that individual has passed away, has no connection to donation at all. So there's no benefit for them. And if you were a hospital, would you want tons of people dying at your hospital? That doesn't make you popular, right? So there's no benefit for the hospital to support organ and tissue donation. They get no monetary benefit, nothing else.
Lucianne Civito, CB13. How do you verify when the person's at the hospital? Obviously, you know, an ambulance picks you up, if you don't have your ID with you? How does that get verified at that point?
Well, they have to verify who that individual is, and then we have to contact the Department of Health. So that's not something that we maintain. The Department of Health maintains the confidential database. So even though I've, in my 15 years, have registered thousands of people, if you called me today, I couldn't tell who you are and if you were registered on the New York State Donate Life Registry. The Department of Health maintains that. So when each individual passes away, that's who we have to contact to verify if that individual has already registered. And as I said, if they're not, which most New Yorkers aren't, then we have to go to your next of kin or your healthcare proxy, because it's also on the healthcare proxy form. It's like section 4 of the healthcare proxy form.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Majority Leader Combo office? Go ahead. Yeah. Go. Yeah.
Okay. So, quick question. Do you have this sort of, yeah.
Oh, state your name.
Yeah.
And yeah,
right,
yeah. Mhm.
So, Jonathan Marable from Majority Leader Lori Cumbo's office. Do you have that sort of debunking myths thing on like a pamphlet or handout?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I have some handouts with the presentation here with my business card that I'll leave for you guys. You can take it on the way out if you'd like to. And it has all that information. That's, that debunking the myths is probably the primary thing that we distribute to kind of dispel some of people's concerns. So we have tons of it.
Kim Robinson, Councilmember Samuel's office. It's not a question, it's a statement. So I lost my sister in January of this year, and we did not know she was a donor. So the hospital, not the hospital actually, someone from the organization called, and the day they called, I was in no condition to have that conversation, and I explained that, and they graciously did call back the next day because I had to fill out an application and questionnaire. And I'm making this statement because it was very humane, the way they were very understanding and supportive, because for us, we did not know she was a donor. Right, so I just wanted to make that statement that they don't just rush you and take the parts off. They do give you time, and there's a questionnaire we had to fill out, complete, and then after everything was done, we got a letter that said, "Thank you. This organ was donated to this individual." So I just wanted to bring that attention.
Thank you so much. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
hearing that. Just so that you're aware, even if an individual is signed up on the registry, we don't just go and proceed with the transplantation. We actually discuss with your family what your wishes are. We provide them with all the paperwork that you completed so you know exactly what was done by that individual. But we always say it's a two-part process. We always ask people if you support organ and tissue donation to register, but to also have that discussion with your family. We think it's a gift you give your family that they know what your wishes are.
Richard Flateau, Community Board 3. What do you do if there's a conflict between what's on, say, your New York State ID or driver's license and a healthcare proxy?
Well, normally we go to the Department of Health, not just on the ID. The Department of Health actually is where all that information normally is. The only thing that we have is a healthcare proxy is not something you have to file anywhere. But we believe that normally the healthcare proxy should supersede it, and we believe that the healthcare proxy that you've designated should know what your wishes are. So that's normally where we would go. Because see, the ID can have organ donor on there. You could have changed it, you could have adjusted it, you could have been specific about what you wanted to donate, and that should all go to the Department of Health. So everything that I listed will go to the Department of Health. So whether you did it through voter registration or you did it through the DMV, it's all going to be at the Department of Health where it's housed.
Hi, Jonathan again. So I guess one question was answered about whether or not you can change your decision about whether or not you want to be an organ donor or what organs you donate. But the second question, in terms of this sort of information about organ donation, is this something that you also administer at the locations where they can sign up for organ donation?
That's 95% of what we do is educate the public. We are not for profit, so a lot of what we do is on a grassroots level. So we do a lot of community events, a lot of educational seminars, a lot of reaching out to the public, things like we're doing here tonight, to really educate the public on the importance. A lot of what we do is we have our volunteers who are recipients or touched by the cause to come out and tell their story about their journey to transplantation, or as a donor family, talk about it, how they made the decision to say yes to giving someone else the gift of life. All of those real important personal stories are what really helps us in spreading the word. So we do a lot of it.
Any additional questions? So I'd just like to state, a while back, this group came and met with the deputy board president, and she wanted to ensure that they got on the agenda for March, because next month is Donor Awareness Month. And when they came and met with her, they spoke about the fact that in Brooklyn, in a lot of our communities, that, you know, we have a lack of organ donors, and it impacts many of our, let's say, communities that have been historically underserved. And so they just want to make sure they're able to get out there ahead of April. So if you guys would like to, you know, have materials, invite them to your upcoming meetings and boards, they're welcome to come out, right?
Love to.
They'll love to come out, because they like to have an open and honest dialogue into what we're experiencing in this sector. So it was very important that this month is March, April is Donor Awareness Month. They want to do outreach events. They want to come out to health fairs. They want to come out to your community boards, and they'll like to, you know, to make sure they're able to reach the public. So,
Thank you so much for having me.
okay.
Can I just ask one question?
Oh,
Janice
yes.
Morgan, Community Board 16. The donor list, who is it the health department that maintains the list? Because some people are a higher priority than others.
Right.
How does the organ get transported, like, around the city to whoever is highest on the list? How do you get that information? How are the hospitals determining if the patient in their hospital is #1 on the list, or a patient in some other part of the city is #1 on the list?
Well, it's actually a national list that's broken down based on region. So we're like Region 9, which is like New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, because you have to be able to get to that organ when it becomes available, and that could be anywhere within that area. And how people are on the top of the list, it's based on blood type. It's based on the organ you're waiting for. So kidneys are about 70% of the list of people that are waiting in our area are waiting for kidney transplants, okay? It's based on how sick you are. That's really what determines if you're at the top of the list. The people that are at the top are the sickest people. They need it the quickest. So how you move around on that list is really dependent on how long you've been waiting, sometimes the size of the donor versus the recipient. So if I wanted to donate, I would need to donate to someone of similar size, like a 300-pound man could not donate to a 100-pound woman, as an example. So that's really how the list is determined, and how things get around the city. You know, sometimes on the shows they have like a helicopter or whatever. We don't have that. We have a minivan that kind of gets around. It's a transport van, and it goes to the different hospitals depending on where the donor is. Then we reach out to the recipient, who is the best match for that particular organ. They have to get to that organ within 2 hours.
Okay. Does your group do presentations that answer those questions in more detail? I feel like that level of detail kind of
we
helps
do all of
people.
that, and I'll just tell you that my department is more of the community outreach, the PR, the marketing. We do the website and all the social media, but most of our staff, we only have about 200, are mostly clinical, doctors and nurses. And those are the people that are actually in the hospital working with the staff there to do the matches, but also we do everything from the receiving of the call to the supporting of the donor families for up to 5 years after the donation has occurred. We have a whole donor family services department that does not only supporting those families, but grief counseling for up to 5 years.
Okay. And last question, I know we all want to go home. Is this information available? Like, I know you said you'll have the presentation, you have copies of that, but the information to, like, the questions that I just asked, is that on your website somewhere?
It is on our website, www.liveonnewyork.org. And we're the only organization that handles it for this particular area. It's broken down into areas, so there is no competition. We're the only ones.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank
having
you.
me.
Thank you, Karen, for your presentation tonight. So that concludes our business that we'll live on. Hold on, we have more to do, agenda. So any members have any unfinished business? Well, we do have one. So in April of 2019, and last month, we had the MTA who presented here at our Borough Board meeting. And the concern was raised in regards to the community outreach effort that was made in regards to the Brooklyn redesign network. So the Borough President has crafted a letter addressing the concerns. It's actually going to be on behalf of the Borough Board. This is a draft letter. There'll be some more changes to it, so we want to make sure everyone's able to review the letter. It's just basically stating the outreach that they conducted in October, stating that they did 10 open houses and reached out to got service from less than 3,000 individuals across Brooklyn in a borough that's like over 2.6 million residents. So we're just asking them just to make sure that they're in phase 2 now. If you guys can remember, phase 1 was the first meeting, phase 2 was a condition report. So we want to ensure that they ask them to do additional outreach efforts. So we don't know how many boards they came out to and present to, but we asked them to come out to all the boards in person, make sure they have the survey at hand and do a more deeper assessment feedback initiative to get a real assessment of what our constituency need. We also are asking them just to make sure that in location-wise that it's accessible. We noticed that someone mentioned that CB17, the closest location was Medgar Evers College, and that was really unacceptable for our seniors, and majority of them who rely on public transportation. So review the letter. It's not going to go out. It's going to be addressed to the interim president who's going to be taking over. So that's one unfinished business. Any new business? We do have, okay. Janine from Community Board 16, there's something on the agenda for next month. I just want you to touch base on it real quickly. There's an item that you had, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's a Cold War resolution. It's actually Community Board 3 and 16 that will be introducing that legislation, or asking for the resolution so that it can be introduced into legislation to add Cold War veterans to the tax exemption that currently exists for veterans, because they are presently excluded. And so CB16 and CB3 work in conjunction on veteran services issues. We each have a Veterans Affairs Committee at our board, and so they will be presenting on next month, asking the borough president to adopt the resolution and then, allow it to move forward to city council. And I believe Councilmember Ampry Samuels is on the Veteran Services Committee, and so once we get that resolution passed, we'll ask her to carry it forward to city council, and hopefully it will help to get the law amended.
Okay, so we just want to give you a heads up because there may be a voting item for next month's board. And then in addition, we sent out a copy of the resolution for the state staffing. It was sent over to the Nurses Association. The press release did go out when they went up to Albany. So there's a copy here, and they'll keep in contact with the board or any action that's happening in regards to the resolution. With that, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Teresa
Fred Baptiste.
Scavo, motion to adjourn.
May I have a second?
Second, Fred Baptiste, Community Board 9.
Thank you, guys. And with that, our next meeting is April 7th. Thank you for co-hosting with me and being patient. Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. Have a good night.